Okay, so you have gotten your T30 or your T50, your global upright cabinet. Some really important things that I need you to know is that, with that cabinet comes, the second you accept that and sign the BOL, the cabinet is yours. So if there are any issues, if you see any damage, you need to note that. Small cosmetic dings or some paint chipping or maybe a little bend, that's okay. You want to go up on a ladder and check and make sure that none of the compressor was hit. If it's just something cosmetic, call your sales distributor and discuss with them. Usually you can keep the shipment and then we'll work on an insurance claim to help you. If you see giant holes where a forklift has gone through or it's on its side, that's where you would not want to accept the unit. So they're never going to bring it inside to your building. They're always going to take it right outside your door. You can see we've already taken off all the cardboard and the plastic that was on here. And now what we're going to show you is how to get the caster kit on. If you're using a caster kit, this is an optional accessory. And we're going to show you how to safely unbolt the machine and then the order of operations of putting those casters on. If you are not using a caster kit, you could use a dolly in this case or 2 furniture dollies. And so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get our 3/8 and 7/16 socket, and then our guys are going to show you how to properly take off from the pallet. Removing the 7/16, there's 4 screws. The 7/16 is what holds the wooden board onto it. The 3/8 is what actually goes up into the unit. Great, so now that we've taken off our screws, we need to remove the 2 pieces of boards under there. So you have a strong team leaning back, and then this is where you're getting in there and taking out your 3/8 bolt. So these 3/8 bolts are going directly into the chassis of the machine. So this is how you're going to remove that, and then you're going to put the casters in place. Notice how it slides a little once that weight happens. So this is where it's important to have extra people around to hold it. This is not something you can trust your teenage employees to doing. This is something that you as an owner need to be a part of the process. And so now we're taking the other side. So this is the other 3/8. We have people on the other side leaning forward. And again, remember that once these bolts are coming off, there might be some tiltage. And so you need to be ready and have some strong folks. So you can do this with 2 people, but we recommend them to be very hardy and strong, and it's probably better with 4 people for safety. And so we're going to show you how you're going to tilt back and get your first 2 wheels in. It's very important that your first 2 wheels have the brake mechanism on them, which will help you when you're leaning the other way and putting on the other casters. So watch carefully how this happens and see the notes below in the video for more information. So at this point, you're going to slide the front of the machine forward. Remember, it is a very top-heavy unit. And as you can see, we're using a minimum of 3 people here. And you could also use your local refrigeration company to do your install. So we're being very gentle. And now your third person has removed the pallet. And now we're ready to proceed with putting in the front 2 casters. And again, as a reminder, this is you adding the front 2 with brakes, and this allows you to make sure that you'll use those brakes when you're leaning it the opposite way for the next 2. Notice how we've pre-assembled the casters, and you'll notice that there's that white metal that the caster goes to, and that's because it needs to leave space for your condensation drip pan. If you don't have that drip pan, you're going to have water under there, and that can cause issues. So this is the really important part of the process. As you can see, you put those on, and then we're going to engage the brakes. That way, when tilting the other direction, it doesn't roll, giving you the ability and height to safely put on the rear wheels. So some of the things you can do for safety is that you can get some wooden blocks from Home Depot and get those cut. You have some 4x4s, and so you can use those to kind of push it up there. Now what we're going to do is tilt it forward and then use these wood blocks as safety when putting in the rear wheels. And as you can see, again, these are 3/8 screws. So then you're making sure all the casters are tight, making sure you have a safety mechanism in case the people holding it have fallen. And again, if you cannot do this yourself, then you need to get a company that can do that for you.
Easy drop. Ready?
And as you can see, your team is taking the wood out and then going and coming down. So here we have the condensation drain pan heater. And so this is really important, and this is also going to be, it was in the boxes that was inside your cabinet right there. And what you're going to do is you're now going to put this on. You're going to look under and you're going to see a little metal rectangle that has 2 Phillips head screws. That's covering the electrical connection that this is going to go into. But one important thing that you're going to really need to know is that when you go to plug this in, you could accidentally put a wire onto the heating element. So you need to make sure that the wires are clear and away once you actually connect this up under the machine. So the first step is going to be to remove the 2 Phillips head screws, which we'll show you, and then you can slide this in from the front of the back, and we'll show you that next. And then you'll finish by using the wing nut, which is on the inside, to attach the pan to the bottom of the unit. All right, so right here we see that we've taken that metal sheet off, and this is where it's going to get plugged in. And remember, again, we want to make sure that those wires aren't touching the heating element, and you'll see it's going to slide into these flanges right here. And so the key important part is to make sure that the plug is matching here and plugged in. All right, so now what we've done is we're going to sliding it in, and we're holding the plug back, that way it doesn't get caught. Sliding it down, and then from there reaching in and grabbing the male side of the electrical plug. And then you see the technician make sure none of the wires are there. And then they add the wing nut. Again, making sure he's tucking the wires in, but not tucking them back into the heating element. So you might be asking yourselves, what are these for? No, this is not for you to do military grade push-ups. This is for you to make sure that you do not, or your employees, do not push your unit back against the wall, which can damage your compressor and void your warranty and make your life not ice cream fun. So you'll see that the 4 screws come on the unit. This will be inside the boxes. So all you'll need to do is remove these screws, put these in and re-screw it in, and this is what stops you from making a crucial mistake like kinking one of your evaporation lines or hurting the compressor. Some of your units may also have a sign telling you to remove a strap from the top of the compressor. If that is there, you'll also want to follow those instructions. But we'll just show you how simple it is to put these on now. So on some of your global units, which would be your double doors, which is usually your T50 line, and this is the same for a merchandiser, you might have to take the doors off to get it through a normal size door. So what we're going to show you now is how simple it is to take these doors off to safely go through a doorway. So it's a Phillips head, and as you can see, it's 2 screws on each side. You'll have one person holding the door so it doesn't drop. And then you'll notice that he's pulling it off from there and making sure that he does not bend this pin, because if he was not holding that and that pin were to bend, that would cause issues and your door wouldn't seal and you'd be unhappy. So again, you're only doing this if you cannot fit through your normal doorway. So what you have here is you have your sensors for your buttons for your doors, right? And so when you're moving this, if you ever move it inside of a unit, this could get stuck on the side of a wall. So what we recommend doing is taping it down. As you can see, there are 2 screws that hold the outside mounting. And you can remove this to get it through the doorway. So we've already removed the doors, we've already taped the switches, and now we're doing the 2 screws in the top for this extra mounting piece that'll help you get through any door necessary. And you can see he's being very careful not to hit the control board right there, and then handing down. Your final area of obstruction, if you have a small door, would be the box holding your mechanical. Again, if you need this, this is where having a professional refrigeration company do this might be the best choice for you, because if you make a mistake, it can hurt the machine. So for your global upright units, once you've gotten them in the door, we're going to show you just quickly how to put everything back. So we're going to put the control panel back in, and then the white metal cover, and then we're also going to show you how to reassemble the doors and make sure they're aligned correctly. All right, so at this point, we have gotten prepared our legs. The global upright models, this is your T50 and your T30, are all going to come with legs. You can provide and purchase an extra caster kit, but this is what's stock with the global units. So as you've seen, you need to have at least 3 to 4 strong people, and you want to have your screws all set, and you want to have some blocks on hand so you can tip it up and safely do this. If you don't have strong enough people, we recommend that you use a refrigeration company or a contractor to do this, since it is heavy and you can damage your unit. At this point, we are now going to bend the unit back and put on the front casters, and then use the blocks to hold it steady. Watch as we do this. Okay. So when you put in your center hinge holder, it's going to be important. You're going to have to see that it might get lined up, so you're going to have to angle it and not tighten it all the way until you test that it's lined up with the top. So currently it's in the door closing position, and what you need to understand is there's a lot of tension.
Yeah, the tension, you pull it back the way you open the door.
But when you put it on, if you don't have something stopping it, this can hurt your fingers right here because the tension is so strong. So when you're putting on the door, you need to find some kind of system or tool to keep it.
Still there.
So the tension, as you can see, is being opening. The hinge was open, so that way it will stay. And then so the technician has to be careful not to let that click back and hit their finger. Once you've got one screw in, that'll hold it, and you don't have to be as worried about the tension. And then checking the closing and making sure it's lined up. And as you can see, one of the great things about our doors is that tensioner also makes sure that the door closes automatically, so that way if your employees forget, your product isn't damaged. You also can check to make sure your locking is working if you want to make sure it's lined up. And again, checking that button and always making sure that you have a good seal all the way around. And it could also void the warranty. So it's very important to make sure that you have your seals in the proper place. So you're going to see on the inside of the unit, soon we're going to show you how to put in the shelves, but you might be asking yourself what this is for. And so the purpose of this guard is that you don't actually push your row packs or gelato pans or cardboard all the way against the wall. It's leaving room for airflow to happen, because that's how a hardening cabinet works. It's freezing that ice cream from the inside out because of its coldness. So you don't want to take this off. This is there for a reason, so that way you get good airflow. All right, so as you can see, we put in 2 of our first shelves onto our Global T50. And here you have some industry standards. This is your cardboard container that many people who buy wholesale products. This was given by Chocolate Shop Ice Cream, so we thank them. And then so here we have a 3-gallon row pack. Now row packs come in also 2.5-gallon sizes, and this is used by a majority of ice cream makers that make their own ice cream. What's important for you to note, and that's also in the manual and spec sheets, is that you need to give at least about 3 to 4 inches of space, and when you're choosing the height of your shelves before the top here, because if not, you're going to limit the airflow, because of course cold air is going down and heat is rising. So you need to make sure that you have that. When you're putting in your shelves, it's very important for you to note that actually they will be in the same hole in the middle. So they will share the same marking. So if you notice, we put a small mark there, and our shelf goes in and it locks in on the bottom. And then so they actually share this. They would not be at separate heights, and that's how you get an even level. And then you'll go ahead and replicate this, and then so we'll show you how to put the next one in now. So there's a bottom rack for all your stuff, and that's important because of food safety. But what's also important about it is that it keeps, again, some of the coverage of the air, so it's not moving around. So when you place it in, it'll slide in, and then you have your bottom rack to keep your product higher. And so as you can see, you can get about 5 inner shelf or 10 with your Weidenhammer style. This is from Chocolate Shop, and we got about 10 of these per shelf in there, and you can kind of get some more if you squish it a bit, but this is what we recommend. All right, so at this point, we're going to show you the electrical control of your upright from Global. This information will apply to the T30 and T50 models. And so we're going to have the technician show us all the different ways that you can interface with the control.
All right, so we're going to go over the FCO 3294 controller. One of the first things you need to do if you want to set the temperature or access the controller is you have to unlock it. So as you can see, the controller is locked. To unlock it is as simple as pressing and holding set until it says UNL. The controller is now unlocked, and all the functionality is available. The next thing would be if you wanted to raise or lower the set point. Once the controller is unlocked, you would press set. You'll know you're at the set point by the snowflake flashing up at the top. When the snowflake's flashing, you use the up or down arrow to raise or lower the temperature, and when you get to the temperature you desire, press and release set. One other good function of this controller is you can actually see your evaporator temperature. To achieve that with the controller unlocked, simply press and hold the function button until RCH appears. Use your up arrow, go to PB2, press set, and this is your control temperature. Your evaporator temperature. So to exit that, you just press the power button and release it. Now you're back to the actual box temperature. We want to force a defrost. If you have the need to force a defrost, you would press and hold the far right button, which is the up arrow, and the snowflake with water coming off of it. You would press and hold it. Unit's now in defrost, and you can see it says DEF, and then you have the snowflake with the water droplets coming off of it, also indicating you're in defrost.
So every unit is going to automatically has to be defrosted every 8 hours. Now, you might ask yourself is how can I make this not affect my production of product? And the way to do that is what you were just shown is how to put it into defrost. So for instance, if your production is between 8 a.m. and 4 p.m., if you come in and hit defrost at 4 p.m., the machine will then going forward defrost every 8 hours, and that won't occur during your key production times. The defrost should take about how long?
It should be in and out of defrost within 30-minute time frame. you should see DEF gone and the box temperature displayed again.
And then the temperature will be higher during defrost. That's the point of defrost. And then after that 30 minutes, it will take time for the cabinet to get back down to its lowest set temp. But this defrost is very important. So when you first plug the machine in, that's when it'll read the time that the every 8-hour cycle happens. So by manually pushing in the defrost at the time you want, that's how you've spaced it so the defrost isn't happening during production.
Correct.
So there's some really important things to consider in your global hardening cabinet. And a lot of these things are actually outside of the factory's control and on the side of you, the user. For instance, what's the ambient temperature in the room? These cabinets are designed to be working below 80 degrees Fahrenheit. Do you have AC? How much humidity is in the room? If it's over 50% humidity, that's going to affect a lot of your cabinet. How much are you opening the door? These are designed to have 8 to 10 door openings per hour of you putting in either your ice cream cakes or your ice cream. This is a hardening freezer. So it's really important that when you're training your employees, they're not just opening and closing, because that's going to make it so that the cabinet cannot get all the way down to temp, and that's going to make your product suffer. So as you saw in the video, we explored the different ways to set the temperature and set the defrost. And also, there's one more thing that you have to be aware of, and that's your condenser. And the condenser is behind here, and that's something that you want to contract with a refrigeration company to at least every quarter be cleaning this condenser. If you have a lot of dust or you're in the bakery, you want to be looking up there maybe even once a month. That's how you protect your investment. Because once the unit gets to you, those are things that you have to control and be making sure you're working on. The other considerations you really want to make sure that your power is correct. And it's important that you actually use the dedicated 20 amp outlet. Putting this machine into a normal 115 volt outlet will A, can cost you your warranty, and B, can affect relays and contactors within the system. So it's really important that you as the owner of this unit are making sure you have the right temperature, the right spacing, and the right humidity or AC, and that you're making sure you're following the directions on how to set your defrost. So I've removed those 2 screws in there. You might need to wiggle it around. They're not a normal screw. So once I remove those 2 screws, I can then go ahead and get this front panel off, which will reveal the condenser to me. So slide that down and hand that to your associate. Let's imagine that there was dust in the front of this condenser. Well, that might mean actually that the back of the condenser from a rear view is really where all the dust would be. So if you're in a place where there's a lot of grease or there's baking and there's mixing and this is really filled, you would have to use a local company and they would have to come out and use coil cleaner and do it professionally. This is for light condenser cleaning, which you would do by hand. But again, if you see dust on the front, it means it's also in the back. So you're going to gently take your towel and then you're going to brush off any of the dust that are on the condenser, and then the technician will give us some extra advice here as they go forward.
If you have the availability of compressed air, nitrogen, or even can air, the best way to do this to keep from having a mist throughout your building would be to take a towel, rag, or something of that sort, and just simply drape it over the back. You probably want a little bit better towel than this, but just drape it over the back of the unit and make sure it's wet. And now, if you blow air through here, any dust or particles that are blown out will get caught by the wet rag that you can remove. That'll keep you from having dirt and debris flying all over your place of business. Additionally, if you have a greasy environment or a greasy environment where you have fryers, the grease will get airborne and will stick to this. So we're drawing air in all the time. If you have grease, you can use a chemical degreaser like Purple Power or something of that sort, just some kind of degreaser. Lightly spray it, brush it, take a wet rag and gently wipe all the debris off of it, clean the area up, give it a few minutes to dry, and then you'll be free to start the unit back up.